Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's case takes us to Idaho Falls, a quiet city that, in the summer of 1996, became the center of one of the most heartbreaking and controversial murder investigations in American history. It's a story about a young woman whose life was stolen, an innocent man imprisoned for over 2 decades, and a mother who refused to give up until justice was finally served. This is the story of Angie Dodge, a case that redefined how truth, technology, and perseverance can change everything. In June 1996, 18-year-old Angie Dodge was just beginning to shape her adult life. She was smart, caring, and full of ambition. After graduating from high school in Idaho Falls, she got a job at a local office and recently moved into her first apartment on I Street, a small but cozy place she could finally call her own. Friends described her as cheerful and independent, someone who could light up a room just by walking in. But behind that warm summer atmosphere, something unimaginable was about to happen. On the morning of June 13, 1996, Angie didn't show up for work. Her coworkers grew concerned. She had never missed a shift without calling. A few of them decided to stop by her apartment to check on her. The door was unlocked, and when they stepped inside, they found the lights still on. What they discovered next would haunt Idaho Falls for decades. Inside her bedroom lay Angie brutally murdered. The scene was violent and disturbing, indicating a struggle. Detectives would later describe it as one of the most brutal crimes they'd ever seen. Angie had been sexually assaulted and stabbed multiple times. It was an attack that suggested rage, not just violence. Someone had wanted to silence her permanently. News of the murder spread quickly through the small city. For a community that rarely saw such crimes, fear and grief hit hard. Everyone wanted answers, and the Idaho Falls Police Department was under enormous pressure to solve the case. Detectives began their investigation immediately. They collected evidence from the scene, fingerprints, hair strands, and, most importantly, DNA samples from the attacker. But despite their efforts, no match was found in the national database. They had the DNA of the killer, but no one to connect it to. Weeks turned into months, and the case went cold until police began focusing on a group of young men who often hung around downtown. Among them was Christopher Tapp, a 20-year-old local man known for minor trouble but nothing violent. Detectives thought he might know something about Angie's murder. What happened next would shape the next 23 years of his life. Christopher Tapp was brought in for questioning in January 1997. He wasn't a suspect at first, just someone they thought could help. But as the days passed, the tone of the interrogation changed. Detectives questioned him for over 100 hours across multiple sessions. They used intimidation, manipulation, and even promises of leniency to get him to talk. After relentless pressure, Tapp eventually confessed. But his story kept changing. He named different people, gave conflicting timelines, and described events that didn't match the evidence. Still, police clung to one version, the one that made their case look solid. Despite the lack of physical evidence connecting him to the crime, no fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses, prosecutors charged him with Angie's murder. In 1998, Christopher Tapp was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. For the police, it was a victory. For Angie's family, it seemed like justice. But deep down, one person wasn't convinced: Carol Dodge, Angie's mother. Carol Dodge was devastated by her daughter's death, but she was also a woman of incredible strength. She wanted closure, but she also wanted truth. Something about the confession didn't sit right with her. Over the years, she replayed it again and again. studying transcripts, watching tapes, and noticing every inconsistency. She saw how Tapp was manipulated, how he was told stories by police and then repeated them back under pressure. She noticed that the DNA didn't match and that police had ignored it. Most parents in her situation might have focused on grieving. But Carol wasn't most parents. She became a detective in her own right. Over the next 2 decades, she would study her daughter's case like no one else. She wrote letters, contacted lawyers, and even worked with the Innocence Project, a group that helps free wrongly convicted people. She wasn't saying Tapp was innocent because she wanted to protect him. She wanted the truth for Angie. And the truth didn't match the conviction. Years passed, and Tapp continued to maintain his innocence. In prison, he often said that he confessed because he was terrified, exhausted, and manipulated. His legal team fought to reopen the case, pointing to one undeniable fact. The DNA found inside Angie's apartment belonged to someone else. In 2017, after nearly 20 years, things finally began to change. A new prosecutor and police chief reviewed the evidence with modern eyes. DNA testing technology had evolved dramatically since 1996. Using advanced genetic genealogy, investigators built a family tree from the unknown DNA profile found at the crime scene, the same method that had caught the Golden State Killer. And then they got a match. The DNA belonged to Brian Lee Dripps, a man who had lived just across the street from Angie Dodge at the time of the murder. When police approached Dripps in 2019, he initially denied knowing Angie, but when confronted with the DNA evidence, he broke down and confessed. He admitted that he had acted alone and that Christopher Tapp had nothing to do with it. He described the murder in chilling details only the killer could have known. It was the moment that Carol Dodge had fought for more than 2 decades to reach. The real killer had finally been found. The confession not only freed an innocent man, but also brought overdue justice for Angie. In 2019, after 22 years behind bars, Christopher Tapp was officially exonerated. The courtroom erupted in emotion as Tapp walked out a free man, finally cleared of the crime he never committed. For Carol Dodge, it was bittersweet. She had lost her daughter, and no amount of truth could bring her back. But she had also helped correct one of the worst injustices in Idaho's history. When Brian Dripps was charged, his past came under scrutiny. He had lived a quiet life for years, hiding in plain sight. Neighbors described him as reserved, someone who kept to himself. But inside, he carried a dark secret, one that haunted him for decades. In 2021, Dripps pleaded guilty to Angie's rape and murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, ensuring he would never hurt anyone again. For Idaho Falls, it felt like the end of a long nightmare. But for those involved, the scars ran deep. Tapp had lost more than 20 years of his life. Carol Dodge had spent half her life searching for answers. The police department's reputation was stained by the mishandled investigation. And Angie, the girl whose smile had once lit up Idaho Falls, was gone forever. The case sparked major changes in how police interrogations are conducted in the U.S. Advocates pushed for laws requiring full video recordings of interrogations, protection against coercion, and a stronger reliance on physical evidence rather than confessions alone. It also inspired a new wave of interest in DNA genealogy, a technique that has since solved dozens of cold cases. Angie's case proved how science can uncover truth that even decades of human error can't erase. But at its heart, the story of Angie Dodge is about more than science or law enforcement. It's about persistence and the power of a mother's love. Carol Dodge refused to accept easy answers. She knew that justice without truth wasn't justice at all. Her courage gave new life to the investigation and helped free a man she didn't even know. It's rare to see a victim's family fight for someone accused of their loved one's murder. But Carol did, because she wanted the real story, not the convenient one. Today, when people talk about Angie Dodge, they remember not only her tragic death, but also the strength that came from her memory. Idaho Falls holds annual memorials, and Angie's name continues to be a symbol of justice, truth, and perseverance. Christopher Tapp, now free, has dedicated his life to helping others who have been wrongly convicted. He often speaks about forgiveness and rebuilding life after prison. He says he owes everything to Carol Dodge, the woman who believed in truth, even when it went against everything she was told. As for Carol, she once said in an interview, "I didn't just fight for Angie's justice. I fought for the truth because I knew my daughter deserved that." Her fight helped change laws, reform police practices, and inspire countless families to never give up hope. Angie's case is now studied in law schools and criminal justice programs across the country. It's used as a teaching example, not just about wrongful conviction, but about integrity and the limits of human judgment. The story of Angie Dodge reminds us that justice can be delayed, but it doesn't have to be denied. The truth may take years, even decades, to surface, but as long as someone refuses to give up, it will find its way out. From tragedy came a legacy, one that continues to impact lives today. So when we remember Angie Dodge, we remember more than just a victim. We remember a daughter, a friend, and a name that changed the meaning of justice in America. And for all those still waiting for their truth, Angie's story is a light that says, keep fighting. The truth will find you. Thank you for watching. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More real stories, more real justice right here every week. Rest in peace, Angie Dodge.